my god, that was such a good episode. So welcome on into my episode review and breakdown for episode 13, the season 1 finale of Stargirl. I loved it. I just absolutely loved this episode. Now, of course, there were some, iffy moments here, but there's just so much more good than bad in this episode, and there's a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump right in, because a lot definitely happened, and then I'm also going to get into my season 2 predictions as well, because we got to go over those massive cliffhangers, because whoo, those cliffhangers. Whew. Alright, so anyway, the episode starts off with another flashback, just like pretty much every episode this season has started off with a flashback. This one takes place 3 minutes ago, and where they're on the Blue Valley football field as Isaac Bowen is finally fighting back with his tuba, just like his mother told him to. But hopefully next season, when I assume he'll probably become the new fiddler, hopefully he'll realize that a violin is a much better weapon than a tuba, because as I said in last week's review, what are you going to do with a tuba other than just hit him with it? The violin, you can take the bow, stick it through the eardrums, just like Anaya Bowen said, so it's a lot more useful. So hopefully he picks up the violin next season. But all of a sudden, the field gets opened up, and then the satellite dish pops out, and then it basically just starts sending out those brainwaves. And now all of the adults in Blue Valley have frozen, and they're all now under the control of Brainwave. But then we actually flash back to 3 minutes later, down in the ISA's tunnels, as we see Courtney trying to break Pat out of Brainwave's control, saying that she's his daughter and all this stuff. Of course, one of many very emotional, touching moments in this episode. I love this moment. Just the relationship of Pat and Courtney, how it's grown throughout the season, especially how we see at the end of this episode. I just really love that about this. And then it actually doesn't work completely. He starts to break out, but then it does take Beth's help to be able to break Pat and Justin free, as she distracts the gambler by donating all his money to charities. So that's great. I mean, at least she was giving it to a worthy cause, I guess. And so now she's able to power on the brainwave blockers that were there in the tunnels. So now Pat and Justin are now freed, but Barbara isn't, along with the rest of Blue Valley. So now the JSA are able to regroup in Dragon King's lab, where we get this massive battle of the heroes versus villains, JSA versus ISA, and I just absolutely love battles like this, like what we saw in Captain America Civil War. I just love battles like this, where it's like you have the heroes all lined up on one side, and then you have the villains all lined up at one side, and then you just see them running at each other, and then this giant battle starts. I just love it, because then you get to see all these different characters on display here, and it's just really awesome to see here. Especially as a lot happens in this scene, and I'm not talking about just fighting, I'm talking about death. There's a lot of death in this episode, specifically for the villains, and you probably know about this if you're watching this video this far into it, because, spoilers. But first of all, Cindy gets loose during this battle, and she actually kills her father, and it was just a shocking thing. It was just all of a sudden, boom, he stabbed, he dead. Okay then, so I guess that's the end of Dragon King. He really wasn't in the season that much. He was in most of the episodes, but he didn't really do that much. He was definitely one of the more scarier villains, so it was kind of disappointing to see how he went with just one stab from his daughter. Although it is cool to see that Cindy is the one that did it, and that obviously sets up her character more for season 2. But then in this whole battle here, Solomon Grundy actually gets released by the gambler for some backup, and he also joins in on the fight, but I'll talk more about him and his look later. But first, we really got to talk about that Yolanda scene there, because it was another WTF moment here. Because Yolanda and Courtney, they were going to go take down Brainwave, but then Cindy started attacking Courtney, so Yolanda was left on her own, and I was like, oh, how is that fair? Because Courtney gets to fight Cindy, and then you make Yolanda just fight a bunch of Dragon King zombies. That's not as cool as fighting Cindy. But then the last one takes his hood off as freaking Henry Jr. what? Like, my first instinct feeling was, yes, yes, finally. But then everything changes here. Because at first I was like, oh man, this is so awesome. You can see that they're still kind of both into each other, so maybe we'll see their relationship start up again next season. But then all of a sudden, Yolanda just slashes his throat, and I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. No. Like, so now this sucks even more, because now not only is Henry actually dead, like, they did it once and they did it twice. Like, why do you have to take him away from us twice? That was probably the most emotional thing in the season, was Henry's death. And now we had to relive it twice. And then what sucks even more is that now Brainwave is dead as well, because it turned out it was actually Brainwave. And first of all, I don't know how that's a power. Like, his powers are all about brain stuff. Like, so what does that have to do with shapeshifting and stuff? But it was cool anyway. But now he's dead. And just like Dragon King and also the other villains in the episode that died, I mean, it was like one slash and it was just boom, they're dead. And it was like a shocking death that just was all of a sudden happening here. So that was pretty crazy. And it's like, as soon as we find out about his new power, then he's dead. So that really, really sucks there. I would have liked to have seen more from Brainwave. Like, if he was going to die, it probably should have been a better death than that, because he was basically the main villain of the season other than Icicle. But I feel like Brainwave was a lot more powerful there. So I feel like he should have been given a better death than that, which was just like slashed, dead, and that's it. Like, I just feel like there should have been something more there. And I guess this also confirms that Henry actually is dead. Like, a lot of us were theorizing that maybe he isn't dead, but it looks like he is. So that just really sucks. That really, really sucks. But then Solomon Grundy joins in on the party, like I said, and he goes automatically to take on Stripe, because, you know, it's like, pick on someone your own size. And he did. He took on Stripe, and it was really, really cool here, because then Grundy, like, rips Stripe all apart and was about to kill Pat when Rick saves him. So that was a great save there by Rick. But it didn't actually last too long, because obviously Pat had to go save Barbara, but Rick just kept on punching Grundy until Grundy couldn't fight back, and Grundy basically just yielded. And like, Rick can just see the pain and the innocence in his eyes, and I knew this was going to happen. Like, I saw it coming. Like, before going into this episode, I figured that Rick was going to spare him, but at the same time, I felt like they didn't really earn that. Like, there really hasn't been enough development with his character this season for him to come to that decision. But I like how it was done, because it was more like he didn't not kill him because he just came to the decision, oh, killing is wrong. No, he came to the decision because it's even more wrong to kill someone that is not even fighting back, and he's just staring at you with those innocent eyes there. So I think it was executed pretty well. But as for Solomon Grundy himself, I feel like the CGI was a little bit Like, it could have been way better, but the design too, I have to be fair, like, it was very comic accurate, but it was really based off of the more modern, more recent comics designs for Solomon Grundy. And I personally, in my personal opinion, I prefer the more classic design for Grundy that we usually have in, like, cartoons and stuff. But he definitely did look really cool, and he did look like a hulking beast. But hopefully we get to see some more of him in season 2, because, like I said, Rick does let him go. So maybe we'll get some stuff with his origin. Maybe we'll hear him actually talk. That'd be pretty awesome. I don't know, but I'd definitely love to be seeing that. So I hope that happens, because Grundy's on the loose now, so there's really so many possibilities here now, and he could honestly just go off and start killing people, or he could just go off and live in a cave on his own. So we'll have to see. Maybe he's a good guy now. I doubt it. He's probably still a little evil, although he did probably go through a lot of torture and suffering with the ISA there. So, yeah. all of that happened, and then meanwhile we had Courtney and Yolanda reuniting as Brainwave is still dead, and they go in the Cerebro machine, and Courtney just absolutely destroys that thing. I love the visuals here as she was flying up around it, shooting it with her cosmic staff and stuff. So now that the machine is destroyed, everyone is back to normal, including Barbara. But then, of course, Jordan shows up, and he actually freezes Chuck. So, rip Chuck. Is Chuck dead? Are they going to be able to repair it? I don't know how they're going to do that, because it was kind of like a one-time thing. It's not like they have any spare Chucks. Like, that was literally Chuck's AI in there. So I don't know how they're going to fix that for Season 2. But hopefully Dr. Midnight or Beth gets some major upgrades to become even cooler in Season 2. But you know what's not so cool? How Jordan kidnaps Barbara, and then he takes her up on the roof of the American Dream and is just telling her his whole evil plan and just acting super evil. And he really has gone insane here. Like, this is a messed up guy right here. So while that is happening, I just want to throw in these little side notes here. So Icicle is basically the only ISA member left, at least in this battle, because, like I said, Brainwave and Dragon King are dead, and then the Gambler actually deleted all of his files, and he went off, so maybe we'll see him return in Season 2, possibly. And then Sportsmaster and Tigress, they are also alive. We just saw them get knocked out, so they could possibly be out there as well. But Icicle is really the only one left here, and you can definitely tell that he is getting weak here, and he's not going to last too much longer. And if you saw the episode, then obviously you know that he didn't. Because Pat shows up trying to save his wife, trying to save Barbara, and Jordan is like, why would you do this if you don't have powers or a robot? And he's like, I'm just here to save my wife. And then he actually just brings in the backup, which is their daughter, Courtney, of course. And we got this awesome Stargirl versus Icicle battle here, which I really love to see. But then there's this huge blast between the two. Like, when they clash, there's this huge blast that throws them both off the roof. And Yolanda does jump in and save Courtney, while Icicle just hits the ground. And as Icicle gets up, he looks really cool because he's like half Icicle, half Jordan. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be an awesome shot right here that I can use for my thumbnail. And as you can tell, I obviously did. But I was thinking, like, oh, this is going to be an awesome scene here. This is going to be like the final battle. But then all of a sudden, this truck comes in and just hits Icicle. And then he just turns into a bunch of ice cubes. Like, what? Like, no. Like, this is the Mike. Mike was driving the truck. Mike killed Icicle. Like, just at first, like, yeah, sure, it's funny and it's really cool, but just think about it. Like, Icicle, the big bad, the main villain of the season, the man who killed Starman, was killed by a 13 or 14-year-old kid. Just think about that. Icicle in the JSA. Icicle and the ISA killed all of the original JSA members. Yet all these kids are able to take them down so easily. Like, I don't get that, really. Although I do think it was pretty funny when Mike just pulled up and he was like, does this mean I can be in the JSA now? And hopefully it does. Like, maybe he'll become Green Lantern or Dr. Fate or something. Or maybe he'll be like, I don't know, maybe like a Stripe Junior. Like, maybe he'll get his own robot suit. I don't know. But I definitely hope he gets in on the superhero life more in Season 2. But now that Cameron, now that Jordan is dead, how is this going to impact Cameron? Because we didn't see Cameron at all in this episode, and obviously he is the son of Jordan. So when he finds out about his father's death, if he finds out about all of the ISA stuff and how Stargirl killed his father, maybe this will make him go bad, and maybe he'll turn evil in Season 2. Maybe he'll officially turn into Icicle Jr., because we do know that he has those powers. We got that little bit of a tease in this season earlier. So I'm assuming he will become a bad guy. I doubt he'll be the main villain, but hopefully we can be getting a, like, kind of ISA juniors set up here, because we have Cindy on the loose now. We have Isaac Bowen, who hopefully will become the new Fiddler. We have Cameron, who hopefully will become Icicle Jr. And then there's also Artemis out there as well. So hopefully all of that happens, all of it ties up together, and then we can get like an ISA juniors, because just because most of the ISA are defeated or dead, that doesn't mean we can't get a new version, a younger version, just like how we have the newer version of the JSA. So that's probably what's going to happen there. But also, as for Icicle, I actually don't think he's really dead, because yeah, you'd think that, you know, he's the main villain of the season, so why would he last longer than just that one season? But, I mean, he shattered into a bunch of pieces. Like, as soon as the truck hit him, it's not like he really died or anything. He just shattered. And he is basically made of ice. So, if you think about it, maybe he's able to somehow reform himself, because he is ice, and, you know, ice can, you know, freeze back together. So maybe if somebody just throws him in a freezer or takes him to Antarctica, then, you know, he'd reform. So that's always possible, and possibly in season 2, if we get that set up with Cameron becoming Icicle Jr., at the same time we could see throughout the season how Jordan is starting to reform himself and become Icicle again. Plus, another reason I think this is because Shade, who we get a tease of at the end of this episode, we actually found out that he was going to have a big part in season 2 a couple weeks ago from the actor that plays Icicle, Neil Jackson. He actually was the one that revealed that Shade will be playing a major part in season 2. But if Icicle and Jordan are dead and Neil Jackson won't be in season 2, then how would he know that the Shade is going to be playing a major part in season 2? He wouldn't. So I think this means that we're going to be seeing Icicle continue on in season 2, whether he actually becomes Icicle again, whether he reforms himself, whether he teams up with his son. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I definitely think that Icicle is not dead, and he will be coming back for season 2. So I'm definitely excited for that. But as for the other ISA dead members, Dragon King and Brainwave, they're clearly dead. Like, they got stabbed. There was blood all over the floor. Like, they're dead. They're definitely dead. But then we get this nice ending scene here, with the JSA at the field, talking about how the whole day went, because it was a very crazy day, definitely. And then it turns out Justin is actually packing up, and he is leaving Blue Valley, and I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen, because, you know, he had a good role to play in this season, and he was one of my favorite characters. Like, last episode, he was the MVP coming in with that KFC, but I feel like there wasn't really that much more to do with this character. At least on this show, because you need more room for the other characters. So I had a feeling he'd be leaving, but I think it's pretty interesting how he does specifically note that he is going off, he's leaving Blue Valley because the dragon has been slayed, so now he is going to look for his horse and the other soldiers, 7 Soldiers of Victory, or whatever that team was called. So, you know, he's going to be having his whole own adventure off on his own. So maybe we'll get some sort of mention in this in season 2, or honestly, I'd love to see like a spin-off show. Like, give us a Shining Knight spin-off show. You can show us him getting his horse, you can show him hunting down the 7 Soldiers of Victory, and then you can have all these other characters in here, like Green Arrow and Speedy and whatever other characters that were on that team. Like, there's just so many good opportunities here that they can take advantage of, that I really hope we do. But then we get our very first cliffhanger and tease for season 2 here, as we see Shade is down there in the ISA HQ, and he is watching a newscast about the explanation for everything that happened today. And you see his top hat, you see the shadowy smoke, and it's interesting how he notes that he says, I told you, Jordan, like, this was folly, or something like that. So, clearly, we know from earlier in the season that he left the ISA, but this kind of explains why. So, I'm guessing he just knew that this plan would never work, so he thought they were foolish for going on with this plan, and obviously it didn't work out in their favor, so he was right, and now he's like the top villain, because he's really the only one that hasn't been defeated yet. Anyways, let's move on to the next cliffhanger setup for season 2 because, as I mentioned earlier, Cindy is now on the loose because after her battle with Stargirl, she kind of just went off on her own. And we see that she actually went to this place where it's like a storage area or like an inventory place for the ISA. And we see some posters and the costume for the wizard. But she's looking through boxes and stuff, looking for something. And then what she takes out is this tiny little crystal. And this is actually the heart of darkness, the basically diamond or crystal that holds Eclipso. So this is definitely not something I saw coming because, like Shade, we knew ahead of time that he was going to be a part of season 2. But Eclipso, I had no idea about. So I'm definitely excited to be seeing Eclipso in season 2. Not sure if he's going to be the main villain or the secondary villain. Because we got Shade and Eclipso. They're both going to be villains. But I'm not sure which one is going to be like the top dog. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I'm definitely excited to see where this goes because I really like Cindy and Shiv. So I really want to see more of that character. And if she's going to be doing some stuff with the Heart of Darkness and Eclipso, then it's definitely going to be really interesting. But before we get into our kind of post-credit scene and our like final cliffhanger for season 2, we do have one final scene with Courtney and the JSA and her family. You know, Courtney and the gang, basically. And it's Christmas time, 6 weeks later, and I think one of the things I love the most about this scene is that the season started off at Christmas time. That scene where the JSA were all killed off, that was taking place during Christmas time because the very first scene of the season was Pat driving through with his car, and there was Christmas music playing. Now, I love how the season ends with Christmas as well, which is just amazing. So, it is Christmas time. The whole family is gathered together. The JSA are there as well. And then we have this amazing moment where Courtney gives Pat that present that she was going to give to her father for Christmas that night that he died. Or actually didn't die, but you know, all that stuff. And I love this because she said, I've been waiting to give this to you for a long time. And she's always been saying that she was trying to give this to her father. But now she's finally realized that Sam Curtis isn't her father, Starman isn't her father, Pat is her real father. Even though not technically, but he really is her father. So now he has the world's greatest dad mug, which I love. This was just such an amazing moment. I love the relationship between these two. And then, of course, we do get a nice family photo here as well. The Dugan Whitmores, or Dugmores, whatever you want to call them. But then we do have kind of a cool but kind of why scene because Courtney goes out for a ride on her cosmic staff in her Stargirl outfit in the middle of winter. Like, it's literally Christmas Day, and then she goes out for a ride. First of all, she's got to be freezing. Like, she's, like, like, that'd be a bit chilly. And then Stripe shows up, too. So, yeah, it's a nice moment. We get some cool superhero poses here, and we see their relationship continue to grow here, but it's just kind of random, because it's Christmas Day. Why do they just go out for, like, a random ride? It's like, it's less like walking in a winter wonderland, more like flying in a winter wonderland, which is pretty cool to say, but it was also just like kind of a random moment. Like, it was cool, but just kind of random. But it was definitely a great moment. I love the action poses here. But then the stinger, the post-credit scene, the very last scene of the episode after the credits, after we get this dedication moment to Jeff John's sister, who is the person that Courtney Whitmore, the character, is actually based off of. So I really love that dedication there that we had at the end. But then we have this post-credit scene where we see we're in North Hollywood, California, and there's this guy that gets out of the car. And he knocks on someone's door, and apparently he's looking for Pat, and this is where Pat used to live, but apparently he's moved away now. And the guy's like, who are you? My name's Sylvester Pemberton. Like, what? What? So, yeah, Sylvester's alive. This is crazy. Or is he alive? Because, I mean, we clearly saw him die at the beginning of the season, so is this someone else? Is this actually Sylvester? I don't know. I don't think Sylvester's actually alive. This has got to be someone else. Maybe it's one of the villains. But it definitely is a crazy scene here. Like, we got Joel McHale back. I mean, also it makes sense because this whole time I've been wondering, like, why would you cast a great actor like Joel McHale to have him be in one scene and die? Well, this is why, because he's going to show up in season 2 as one of the main characters. So that's fantastic. I love this. I'm definitely looking forward to be seeing more of this character in season 2, whether it's actually Sylvester or not. I don't really know, but there's really no way that I can think of to explain this other than it's not Sylvester, because we literally saw him die. But maybe I'll come up with some idea. And this has already been a very, very long video. Probably one of the longest videos I've ever done, to be honest. So I actually am going to make a separate video going over all these Season 2 cliffhangers as well as all my other Season 2 predictions. Obviously, I did do some in this video here, but I'm going to go much more in depth on all of these characters like Eclipso and Shade and this Sylvester ending, as well as the ISA Juniors, something with Solomon Grundy and stuff like that. So definitely stay tuned for that video. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can stay up to date on everything there. I'll probably post that video maybe later today, but probably not till tomorrow. But who knows? It just depends on timing and when I have the time and stuff, because yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely excited to make that video, but until that comes out, let me know down in the comments below, what did you think about this episode, and what do you think will be happening in Season 2? Let me know all your thoughts and theories. Thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit that subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.